Hello, and welcome back to this new episode looking at what's new inside of SAS Viya 2024.05. We will dive into visual analytics where we got some cool new updates. We will take a look inside of SAS Model Studio, intelligent decisioning, SAS Studio, and much, much more. Let's get started. Here we are inside of SAS Visual Analytics, where we have a big update to how parameters can be used. For that, we're going into the data pane, go to new data item and parameter. You can see there has been a big change on how parameters look and how you can define them. For example, you no longer need to add a minimum or maximum value for a numeric or date-based parameter. And also you can see next to our default value, we now have the ability to edit it as an expression. This takes us into the expression editor, where you of course can write out all the functions you want to make use of and the operators, or you can use the visual interfaces. So clicking on functions, we're searching for distinct, and now we have a visual way of creating this expression. Let's select one of our variables here and click OK. If we want to go even further, on the right-hand side, you can see we can add filters to our data set, to our parameter from our data set. I don't want to do this at the moment, so let's leave this be and say OK. And now you can see the default value of this parameter is the expression we just created. Let's click OK again. And now we have our additional parameter. And if we hover over it, you can now see the current value. So it's evaluating the actual expression and then the expression underneath it in this helpful menu. Of course, you can still make use of parameters for control in input elements or even in advanced expressions, for data item calculations, or for filters, just like you did before. On the note of using it for input control elements, the way the parameter is linked to that object has changed. Where it previously was in the roles pane as a parameter, it has now been moved into the actions pane, where you can now set the parameter into here to be added. And for the ability to change minimum and maximum values, they can now also be set to parameters. So you can really change up how things are behaving in a much more dynamic way depending on your data through this additional functionality. Let's move on from SAS Visual Analytics to Model Studio, where we have a small but very useful update. And that is, inside of the data pane, you now can go ahead and instead of having to replace a data source with itself if you want to update the data, there is now just a handy refresh all data button that will just take a look, is there new data inside of that CAS library where you pulled the data from, and then replace the data fully, which is a super easy and simple button, greatly appreciated for those that work a lot with Model Studio. With that, let's move on to intelligent decisioning, where we have an enhancement to how you can work with the tags. So let's go to tag management. And in here, you can see I have my two tags that I have defined that I'm using throughout intelligent decisioning. And before I could only see, yeah, this tag is used by these number of items, but I couldn't easily get to which items that are tagged with this. Now I can click on this number and it brings up a little card that shows me all the different items associated with it. And I can even use the export button to have a PDF report generated for me that I can put into documentation, for example. And let's finish things off inside of SAS Viya with SAS Studio, where we have gotten a lot new steps again, in total 10 this time, through the categories statistics, prepare data, optimization, and network analysis. So make use of them as you see fit. My highlight definitely is the imputation step that has been added this time around. But the thing I want to focus on is something that I really appreciate when working with SAS Studio, and that can be found inside of the Explorer pane of SAS Studio. Now, what you could always do if you were inside of a SAS program, for example, was to right-click and insert as path, which would add the whole path to that specific file or folder into your program. But now I would have to go in and copy it and take it somewhere else. If I want to link to somebody, hey, here's the file that I want you to take a look at or review or something like that. So now, in addition, has been added, if you right click, you can now copy path, and that just takes that path to your clipboard, and you can now use Control V to just add that to wherever you want it to be used. This is a great feature that enhances the usability of SAS Studio and just gives you quick access to these types of paths. This, of course, also works on a folder level. Now, let's take a look at 3 cool articles I found in the SAS Communities library. First up is 10 productivity features inside of SAS Studio on SAS Viya that details tips and tricks how you can make yourself more productive using SAS Studio. Next is a really awesome hint and deep dive into the specific of Liti rules for text analytics inside of SAS, and a little tip that you might not know about. And rounding things out is a guide on where to define your SAS libraries in SAS Viya, showcasing different ways and management styles on how you can add and distribute library definitions throughout your SAS environment. And now we are taking a look at the contributed custom step in the last month. And this time we have large language model Azure OpenAI based retrieval augmented generation has been added. And it's a great new step that dives deep into how you can use RAG together with an Azure large language model inside of SAS Studio. Check it out if you're interested. Thank you as always for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this update of SAS Viya 2024.05.